Yeah, that's right, it's yet another Streamlabs video. The reason we're doing this is because it's one day removed from the 2023 NHL trade deadline. Normally, because it is Saturday morning, we'd be doing a Why I Want in this time slot, but there are still extra pieces of shrapnel, I guess you could say, that we kind of need to pick apart and talk about in regards to the trade deadline. And it all starts here, with a page that doesn't show off anything. This page doesn't exist. Try searching for something else. What you're looking at here is a deleted Elliotte Friedman tweet from yesterday that kind of got a lot of people super excited and confused and worried. Really depends on who you ask. We're talking about the Philadelphia Flyers and the Detroit Red Wings, and the trade which would have seen James Van Riemsdyk get sent over to Detroit. But, as you all kind of know, because you followed the trade tracker, you saw the stuff that was done yesterday, this move ultimately did not happen. JVR is still a Philadelphia Flyer, and to the very unfortunate pain and suffering of Flyers fans, it's been very apparent that this is a decision that many are upset with. James Van Riemsdyk is 33 years old, 6'3", 207 left-handed guy on the left wing, making $7 million a year till the end of this season. The guy has no trade protection, so he's free to get moved wherever is going to take him, and this season the guy's on pace for 34 points in roughly 61 games. I mean, the point production isn't terrible, but for a $7 million guy who gets, let's say, 13-ish goals a year, if you're lucky, he'll get 20 plus like he did last season. It's been a really rough go, and the Flyers have been a bad team, and everybody's been talking about Chuck Fletcher and how he needs to go out there and take away some of these rentals, just send them away for draft picks because the Flyers are bad and you have to capitalize on what you have because JVR is not going to re-sign. So this is an asset you have to move. And unfortunately, with a few minutes left in the trade deadline life cycle yesterday, we had ourselves that word that he was going to be on the move, and he was going to be moved to Detroit. This is the subreddit post on our hockey that kind of highlights the tweet. At 2:37 p.m. Eastern Time, Elliotte Friedman said he's hearing JVR to Detroit. That's the tweet that we're looking at here that was deleted. Now, in that short span of time when Friedman said this, a lot of people were like, wait a minute, what? Why? Like, why is Steve Yzerman getting JVR? You just traded away a whole bunch of guys like Sundqvist, you traded away Vrana, you traded away Hronek. Why are you getting James Van Riemsdyk? And in the short sample of time where this tweet was up, a lot of Red Wings fans were saying, okay, maybe it's because Steve Yzerman wants a veteran presence to be on the team until the end of the season. Maybe it's because when you trade away Vrana, you trade away Sundqvist, you trade away Hronek, your team is so bad all of a sudden. You trade away Bertuzzi too, that guy's also gone. You're really pushing your team down the drain when it comes to their on-ice talent, so maybe try to get a guy or two that could refurbish a few points here and there. Maybe. That was the conversation going around, and nobody really knew why exactly it was going on. We just kind of had a small tidbit of time where it was like, okay, this is going on. Darren Dreger then also tweeted this out. JVR is likely headed to Detroit. The deal isn't done yet as the Wings are in the process of moving another player. That other player ended up being Oskar Sundqvist, sent over to the Minnesota Wild. We had made a video about that, by the way, if you wanted to see it. But as the final, let's say, 20-ish minutes of the trade deadline wound down, we had ourselves no ultimate deal for JVR that was made. This was the tweet by Chris Johnston. A few minutes later, he's being told that James Van Riemsdyk is not getting traded to the Wings. And then there was another tweet made by Darren Dreger saying that things are changing fast on this guy. Then you had yourselves even more updates. This is a second post made on the Our Hockey subreddit, talking about a few more tweets made. Elliotte Friedman had another tweet that was also deleted. Friedge went out there and deleted a few tweets. By the way, he was an absolute MVP yesterday during the trade deadline and its show. But the second Friedman tweet that was also deleted saying, something happened with JVR in Detroit. They pulled back from the deal. Frank Saravelli, a few minutes after the trade deadline, ended up passing, told James Van Riemsdyk was not traded prior to the NHL trade deadline. And so, for a good 5-10 minutes-ish, the hockey world thought that Steve Yzerman went out there and made a trade for James Van Riemsdyk only to say no. We didn't do it. And this is where things get very strange, because on the one hand, you gotta ask yourself, okay, well, Stevie Y is kind of a vault. We know him and his people, they don't like to let things leak, so where did this come from? Where did all the NHL insiders all of a sudden get word that James Van Riemsdyk is going to the Wings? And for what purpose was that, too? If there was a conversation or two about JVR and Detroit, what happened? Why did things not go down the way that we thought they would? And where did things come from initially? And you had yourselves even more questions brought up with the fan base, because everybody for a few minutes was like, wait, why are we getting JVR? There's like no reason to get this. We just got a whole bunch of draft picks for Bertuzzi, for Hronek. All these guys are gone. Do we really need to shell out some assets and pay for a guy to come onto our team and expire as a UFA to be? Is Yzerman going to retain salary on JVR and try to trade him elsewhere? But no, we can't do that, because the Red Wings had 3 salary retention spots already used up, so that kind of doesn't work anymore. So what happened here? And this is the unfortunate conclusion that I have to make in this video when I say I have absolutely no idea what happened, and I just wanted to make this video chronicling the entire story as to the 20 minutes wherein a lot of people thought JVR would be a Red Wing. It is unfortunate, but we really just had no inkling as to what happened or why things fell through or what even was the thought process in the first place. I can tell you this, though. A lot of Red Wings fans kind of so-so on it. Okay, Stevie Y, I'm not going to go out there and question you right off the bat, because we'll see what the trade ends up entailing before we make a judgment, but on the surface, JVR coming to Detroit does not really seem like a productive move. Unfortunately, for a lot of Flyers fans, that entire sentiment does not bode well for that fan base, because for the Flyers and their fan base, I mean, everybody's been talking about Chuck Fletcher and how the guy was unable to do anything proper, and all these UFAs that are going to be expiring soon, getting nothing for them. JVR was the big one. You had an opportunity for the past few days to try to move this guy, and it's not like he's a terrible hockey player. 23 points, 41 games, as we had said, but this veteran presence isn't really all too valued on a team that is doing as poorly as the Flyers have been doing. And you talk about the management, the inability to recoup assets, and sending away assets to get rid of guys who end up becoming good and getting other assets for other teams. Shane Gostisbehere is the one that comes immediately to mind. You guys paid capital to get rid of him. And then he went to Arizona, he was good, and now he's in Carolina and he's doing even better. So there's been an entire conversation about the Philadelphia Flyers and their asset management, and this JVR thing seemed to have been the icing on the cake. Steve Yzerman might have gone out there and tried to use this as an opportunity to find out who the mole was, who was leaking things into the media. That was sort of a conspiracy that I saw thrown around there from Red Wings fans in particular. Oh, this is Stevie Y trying to test out who's leaking things. He'll talk about a deal and tell some people about it, and if that deal gets talked about on TV, you know who the rat is. But then again, there's also the perspective, maybe Chuck Fletcher was the guy. Who really knows? There's no real concrete evidence to support any of this, but at the end of the day, I did want to make a video talking about it because Elliot Friedman deleted 2 tweets for a reason. The guy doesn't really go out there and do that unless he's absolutely painstakingly wrong. And this time around, it seems like he had been. And it happens 20 minutes before the trade deadline ends up coming and going. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire JVR, Steve Yzerman, Red Wings thing, how weird it was to see the brief 20 minutes of time that some people thought JVR would be a Red Wing, only for him to not get traded anywhere. He's still a Flyer. A lot of Flyers fans are pissed, and Chuck Fletcher is the guy who's getting all the criticism. Talk to the comments, your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.